Eh. 41-17 is your final score here from Davis Wedge Stadium, and it was not Mississippi State who had the 41 points. It was Toledo. Mississippi State lost to a MAC school tonight, 41-17, and one of the most embarrassing losses I have ever witnessed in 35 years of watching Mississippi State football. Absolutely embarrassing. Give up 484 yards of offense. The effort was not there. Defensively, offensively, another slow start. To put together, a week of preparation after what happened at Arizona State, and this is what you get, was just absolutely ridiculous for Mississippi State to come out and give up 41 in the game against a good Group of Five program in Toledo, but an SEC team should never give up 41 points and be blown out of the water at home against this kind of team. So you're gonna hear a lot of negative stuff. And you're going to hear a lot of negative stuff for the rest of this week and probably for the rest of the year, because I got some bad news for you. If you're a Mississippi State fan, this is not the bottom for this program this year. I don't think that Mississippi State is done suffering this season. I think the worst is yet to come. With what you got on the schedule with Georgia, Texas, Tennessee, Georgia didn't have a good game today, but it's hard to imagine Mississippi State putting up the defensive game that Kentucky did against Georgia today. Tennessee scored 50 points, I think, in the first half tonight. Ole Miss had a bad game against against Wake Forest. I don't know where Georgia Tech came from, and won 40-6 on the road. Texas is demolishing people, and they did it tonight with their backup quarterback. It is going to be absolutely miserable for you as a Mississippi State fan the rest of this year. I just want to prepare you for that. And we talked about that a little bit, preseason. There's going to be a very difficult year. There's going to be some ups and downs. For Mississippi State, I don't know where the ups are going to come at this point. This is shaping up to be, if you look at the schedule, the games Mississippi State's going to be favored in, it's now down to probably one when you look at the schedule, and that's UMass, a team that put up a better fight in a lot of ways than Mississippi State did against Toledo. So it's going to be a miserable year. And this is probably going to be the worst year for Mississippi State in over 20 years. If you look at the schedule, and at this point we can still predict and look ahead. And I just do not see more than one more win on the schedule unless something drastically changes for this team. And that's really depressing to think about. And when I start to really think about the issues at hand for Mississippi State and kind of where they are right now, I know the first line of defense for Mississippi State fans and the defense mechanism that they're putting up is to just go ahead and fire Jeff Lebby now. That is not the answer. He might not be Mississippi State's answer at head coach, but you cannot simply make another change. That's the root of the problem for Mississippi State right now. And I understand that they were not well coached. The game plan was not good. They didn't come out ready to play. That's 2 weeks in a row. They've been absolutely awful in the first half. They've been outscored 55-6 to Arizona State team, who I think is much better than last year, but still a middle-of-the-road Power 6 team, and a Toledo team that plays in the MAC, that lost a lot of their pieces from last year. They got a quarterback in Tucker Gleason who was completing 49% of his passes against Duquesne and UMass. He was 23 of 28, was rarely pressured. When he beat the blitz. 285 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. He completed 82% of his passes, almost twice what he's completing in the first 2 ball games. They rushed 45 times in this game. Their game plan, it felt like, was to try to run the football a little bit. State was okay against it, but 169 yards still. Well, that's a lot of yards to give up against a MAC team. And then, just receivers running wide open, arm tackles, getting run over by these guys. It's just unbelievable to see Mississippi State put a defense like that on the field. It's unfathomable. And that's not really the most upsetting thing when you look at this team, because we knew the defense was going to be bad. And quite frankly, I'm at the point now where I simply just don't care as much about a defense being dominant. I want to see an exciting offense. I want to see a team that puts up a lot of points, is getting big plays. Mississippi State didn't have those big plays in this game. They didn't do anything until the second half on offense. That's what Mississippi State was promised. When they hired Jeff Lebby, they were promised an offense that was going to put on a show. They were promised an offense that was going to score a lot of points, that was going to get up and down the field. The last 2 weeks, that hasn't been there. There has been no showtime for Mississippi State. Doing it against Eastern Kentucky is not moving the needle for anybody in this fan base. They want to see you do that against good teams, against teams that, and the last two teams, I don't even know if you would call good. I think Toledo and Arizona State are going to go to a bowl game. I think they're going to, Toledo has a chance, I think, to win 8, 9, maybe more games in the group of 5. I think Arizona State is going to be bowl eligible, but how good are they going to be? I don't know. To do what you done against them, or I guess what you haven't done, is the most upsetting thing to me. I knew this defense was going to be bad, but the effort, Jeff Lebby was talking about the effort post-game, and I'm seeing guys run wide open, and the defenders are kind of jogging after them. They're chasing all night. I guess they played with some effort in the ballgame, but if your best effort is getting run over by Toledo, that's not good for what's ahead. Georgia, Texas, Tennessee, Ole Miss, those are the teams that you have, you're looking down the barrel against the rest of the schedule. And that's not even talking about A&M. Arkansas is significantly better on the offensive side of the ball. Missouri looks really good. You're hosting them. I look at the schedule, and I literally can predict Mississippi State, I think, to beat UMass, and that's it. You're looking at 2 wins right now after what we've seen the last 2 weeks. And I don't think that's overreactionary. I think that is a reality. Mississippi State could only win 1 more game. And I have not seen a team at Mississippi State in this bad a shape as far as depth, size, speed. That's why I just do not put all the blame on Jeff Lebby. And that might sound like I'm contradicting myself, because I talked about what he promised Mississippi State fans. But I can't just sit here and say this is a Jeff Lebby problem or even a Coleman Hutzler problem on the defensive side of the ball. I look out on the field, and I don't see a roster that is conducive to winning a lot of ball games in this league. And I put the blame on the last 2 staffs. I put the blame on those 2 staffs first and foremost as to why Mississippi State is in the position that they're in. And I'm not going to speak ill of Mike Leach. I'm going to tell you that the people that were in charge of recruiting for Mike Leach, because at the end of the day, he was kind of like a figurehead coach that hired these people to do the recruiting for him. And it was his job to put the product on the field to sell it, but Mike Leach was not known for his recruiting. He hired these people to do the work, and they failed miserably. Evaluations, recruiting head-to-head with other schools, in-state recruiting, they haven't been able to lock those down. The last 2 staffs and the recruiting efforts that they put in have put Mississippi State in a bind here. They've put Jeff Lebby and his staff in a bind. And I don't think it's something that you can simply fix overnight. I think this is going to be very bad for Mississippi State this year. And the problem that you're facing now, if you're Jeff Lebby, is how do I sell this in recruiting? Because at the end of the day, it's all about the kids you got on the field. It's all about the players that you've assembled on your roster. Coaching, to me, is secondary. You have got to have the players in this league to compete for championships, to compete in the SEC. If you are not winning on the line of scrimmage, if you don't have the dudes at running back and receiver and quarterback, you are screwed in this league. If you don't have the guys at defensive line and linebacker to stop the other offense, you are absolutely screwed. And that's kind of where Mississippi State is right now. They don't have the dudes up front on either side. The offensive line couldn't block Toledo. The defensive line couldn't stop Arizona State from running the football. They couldn't get stops on 3rd and 4th and short against Toledo. What is going to happen when they go up against the monsters on the offensive line at Georgia and the running backs that they have there? What's going to happen when they go up against the offenses at Tennessee and Texas and Ole Miss? It's going to be brutal. And for Jeff Lebby, the whole thing now is, how do I get those players to Mississippi State? How do I, if you're not able to show it on the field, I don't know what Mississippi State can do. I mean, they are in a position right now where they are severely handcuffed with the talent that they have, the depth, the lack of depth that they have. Injuries are mounting on the defensive side of the ball. They've just not done a good job recruiting. And, I don't know what Mississippi State can do outside of getting, $10 million from guys like Dak Prescott, Chris Jones, guys like that. That's kind of where they're at right now. I mean, you almost have to get those guys to donate life-changing, game-changing money for Mississippi State for them to go out there and be able to assemble a roster, because otherwise I just don't know how State can dig themselves out of this hole. A few numbers, I just kind of wanted to give some general thoughts, but a few numbers you look at. I mean, we talked about Tucker Gleason. They had 454 yards of offense. Mississippi State had 385, and the bulk of that, let's see what the comparison was from half to half. The bulk of that was in the second half, I know. I mean, the State had 234 in the second half. They had 151 at halftime. 7 rushing yards. They didn't have over 10 rushing yards until the third quarter. They finished with 66 yards rushing. I mean, that is just, that's pathetic. So, I don't know. 10 penalties for 104 yards also stands out. The team was just not disciplined. They were making a lot of egregious mistakes out there. It just looked like a team that, wasn't well coached first and foremost, but they just did not look talented enough for the SEC. And that is just absolutely concerning. If you're a Mississippi State fan, that you should be very concerned. And I think everybody pretty much is at this point. But again, the answer right now isn't make another coaching change. If that's the first thing you jump to, it's just not going to happen. Mississippi State cannot make another coaching change. They've got to have some kind of stability and see where it goes from there. I mean, I think Jeff Lebby's probably going to get 3 years at Mississippi State, if I had to guess, unless something goes drastically wrong. He's got to have a chance to try to dig Mississippi State out of this and try to find a way, because I can't blame him for all the issues Mississippi State has. He can only do what he can with the roster that he has. And, they didn't do their jobs as far as defensive portal recruiting. I thought they went out and got the best players they could get on the offensive side, and that unit should be much better than it is. But another thing with that group is it just takes time for them to gel. You basically have 11 new starters on the offensive side of the ball. That is very difficult to come out and just automatically start clicking on all cylinders. Toledo is a team that has a ton of 5th and 6th year players on it. They were a unit that was on the same page. Mississippi State was not. They're still trying to get on the same page, and that's the issue that you have right now on the offensive side of the ball. But the defense, I didn't think that they went out there and got the players they needed to get to compete, and that was a concern way back in December when they were recruiting. That was a concern when they hired Coleman Hutzler, a guy who has never been a defensive coordinator. It's been a concern. Defense is not a surprise at all, but that's kind of part of the issue. And State is going to have to go out there in the offseason and have a drastic improvement with the roster. And the question is, how do you do it? That's the question. And I think you're going to have to spend a lot of money. I know that. I mean, to be able to get talent that's going to help you make that jump from year 1 and year 2, which we are a long way away from this season being finished, unfortunately. But the money's going to have to be mega for Mississippi State. They're going to have to come into some big-time money from somebody to get some players here that you might not normally get. So State's in a world of hurt right now, and it's just I said it last week after the Arizona State game. It's going to be a very difficult season for Mississippi State fans to sit through. We talked about Ole Miss, with what's going to happen with them. They got a roster that's national championship contender. They're going to get in the playoff, barring some kind of monster letdown. And Mississippi State's going to be scratching and clawing to try to find a way to get 2 or 3 wins. And it's not what you want in the middle of the NIL transfer portal era, because this roster, the players that Mississippi State have that they feel good about, people are going to come after. It's going to be tough to convince people to come here after what you're showing on the field. There's got to be, it's going to take the team kind of coming together and keeping the faith and sticking together and not pointing fingers, stuff like that, for this program to survive and move forward. Because right now it's a very dark time for Mississippi State football, and they got a huge hole to dig out of. So 41-17, it was it felt worse than that. This is one of the more embarrassing losses I've witnessed at Mississippi State, and I've seen a lot of bad ones. So I don't know where it ranks objectively, but it ranks up there as a pretty bad one. You paid this team almost $2 million to come here and play, and they absolutely destroyed you on your home field. This game was never in doubt after the first quarter. They scored 21 points in the second quarter. State did nothing on offense in the first half. They couldn't stop them on defense. 4 out of the first 5 possessions were touchdowns in the first half. It was just embarrassing. And everybody should be embarrassed. Everybody should be embarrassed for what was on the field on Saturday. And all the video this week had comments from TNL about, people have doubted it. Like, you're going to have to prove it. You can't just say everybody's doubting us, we're going to prove it. You're going to have to prove everybody wrong. You haven't shown anything at this point that should give anybody any kind of faith that you're going to put a product on the field that people can be proud of and people can be happy about what they're seeing. All that talk, and I'm going to give, Brian and I are going to give the video team plenty of things to talk about if they want to make a highlight video this week. So if they want to pull that from here or TNL to motivate the team, let's go. I'll do whatever. If I need to come talk, if I need to piss some people off, let's do it, whatever it takes, because 41-17 to Toledo is absolutely embarrassing. And everybody should be embarrassed for what happened. And I don't care who gets their feelings hurt about it or whatever. Putting a product like that on the field is embarrassing, and it's got to change for Mississippi State. But I don't know if it can this year. I don't know if anything is going to happen this year that can change it. I see a very, very, very dark time ahead for Mississippi State the rest of the year. And I don't know if anything can change that but money, just to put it frank. We're in that time, and it's going to be tough too to get Mississippi State fans to buy in to the point where they want to give money to that. Why would you come to a weekend like this, which was setting up to be a great weekend? Hardy put on an incredible concert. Thought it was awesome. I thought everybody did a great job putting that concert together. Big shout out to Mississippi State for pulling the trigger on that. I want to see more of that. I want to see more concerts here and doing everything you can to promote Starkville and make Starkville, Mississippi State bigger than what it is now. But it's hard to convince these people. There's a ton of people here that are middle class people like myself, or for some people, they're struggling to make ends meet, but they love Mississippi State, and they come up here on the weekend. They spend hundreds of dollars at a hotel because these hotels are gouging people and forcing them to pay for 2 nights or whatever. You're spending hundreds of dollars of that. You come to the game, you have to spend tons of money at the gate or at the concessions for food. Now, tickets are not expensive now. You can get a ticket next week for $10. But and then they sit here in the crowd. I mean, the poor people that were sitting here until the end of the game. Man, more power to you guys for doing that. I mean, I had to because I'm getting paid to do it. But for you people that are having to sit through this after spending hundreds of dollars of your hard-earned money, you're getting ripped off. So and Mississippi State's got to be better, and we'll see if that happens. But did not happen tonight. Just an embarrassing night all the way around. I apologize for the fact that this is so negative, but I don't know what positives we could have taken away from tonight. So it is what it is. 28 of 39 for Blake Shapen, 319, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. I didn't think. I heard some people chanting for one of the backups. I think it was Parson. I didn't think Blake Shapen played bad. The offensive line was just atrocious in this game. Couldn't keep him upright. They made very little holes for the running backs. It's just it's a massive work in progress, and that's not a good place to be right now. So they will play a game next week. Florida, who is probably about to fire Billy Napier, will come in here probably motivated because they just fired their head coach, and that usually doesn't go well for the opposing team. But Mississippi State's going to have a chance to bounce back, and we'll see if they're able to do that. And maybe the video team can pull something from this to throw it back in my face. I'll gladly accept it. All right, guys, appreciate y'all. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. I would really appreciate that, whether you like me or not. At least maybe I can entertain you. We will have Thunder and Lightning on Sunday, probably late Sunday night. You'll get that. So that'll be your Monday podcast or Sunday night podcast. We're going to wait and do that. And then we'll have, of course, the Talking Dogs on Tuesday because I'll be out of town Monday. So we'll move that to Tuesday just like we did this past week. All right, sorry you guys had a miserable Saturday night, but we are alive and well and blessed otherwise. So keep that perspective going, I guess. All right, so y'all have a great rest of the weekend. Enjoy NFL Sunday. Enjoy church. We probably all need it tomorrow. And I'll catch you down the road.